From a very early age, you felt everything deeply. It was as if the world around you was always too loud, too fast, too heavy. While others ignored, you felt. While others walked by, you stopped to help. That wasn't weakness. It was your soul remembering that you were born with a sensitivity that is a gift, not a flaw. You weren't made to fit in. You were shaped to awaken. And that's why your journey has been so challenging. You were tested on the inside, betrayed on the outside, and silenced so many times that you nearly believed there was something wrong with you. But now the time has come to see the truth behind it all. You are a chosen one. The chosen aren't born ready. They're born sensitive. They're thrown into difficult environments, not because they are fragile, but because they're capable of carrying what others cannot. You were placed in chaos to bring order, surrounded by pain, so you could learn how to heal. And after so much giving, your time has come to return to yourself. This content is a reunion, a reminder of what you've always been. Here you will remember that your empathy, your intuition, your sensitivity, all of it was preparation. And now that you've begun to heal, you are ready to step into your position. Because a healed empath is no longer an emotional accessory. They are structure, they are presence, they are power. If this message touched something inside you, don't ignore it. I'm George, and I want to invite you to follow this channel. This is your space for awakening, healing, and clarity. Every week, we will walk together in this process of transformation. Your journey doesn't end in pain. It restarts with awareness, and you are no longer alone. Welcome to your new phase. You were never fragile. You were always strong from an early age. They told you that you were too sensitive, that you cried easily, got hurt too often, took everything too personally. But what you felt was never exaggeration. It was depth. It was your spirit connecting with layers others ignored. The world didn't know how to deal with that, and you ended up believing there was something wrong with being this way. You learned to stay silent so you wouldn't bother anyone, to hide what you felt so you wouldn't seem weak. But all you were trying to do was survive in a world that wasn't ready for your level of perception. You could sense when something wasn't right, even when no one said a word. And that's a gift, not a flaw. Your empathy made you absorb emotions, pain, tension. It was as if you were a filter for everything around you. When someone was hurting, you felt it. When the atmosphere was heavy, you withdrew. But no one taught you how to protect yourself from this. They just said you were too emotional and needed to toughen up. You were the one who listened when no one else did, who saw the unspoken, who cared even when you didn't receive the same care in return. And even tired, you kept trying to hold everything together. But little by little, you lost yourself. Trying to heal the world, you forgot to care for your own heart. Healing began the moment you realized you couldn't abandon yourself anymore, that it made no sense to try to save everyone if it was destroying you. You understood that love is not about self-erasure, that compassion is not accepting abuse, and that sensitivity is not the same as submission. That's when everything started to change. You began looking inward with more kindness, questioning yourself less, embracing yourself more. You started saying no without guilt, walking away from places that made you feel small. And in that process, you discovered something very strong had been asleep inside you. Something that was always there, but you never dared to access. Your spirit rose, not in anger but in clarity, not in confrontation but in truth. And then, your strength began to appear. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that stands, that holds, that protects, that no longer bows. Because now you know. Your sensitivity is your superpower. You were never fragile. You were simply trained to believe that. And now that you've awakened, everything changes. Because from here on out, you stop seeking acceptance and start living in alignment with who you truly are. And when that happens, your presence changes everything around you. Because those who live their truth illuminate effortlessly. The healing of the empath is a spiritual revolution. When an empath begins to heal, the world around them is surprised. Because the person who always said yes now sets boundaries. The one who stayed quiet to keep the peace now speaks with firmness. A healed empath is not aggressive, they are centered. And that stability unsettles those who fed on emotional imbalance. You begin to see clearly who was by your side out of love, and who was there out of convenience. And even though you still feel deeply, now you feel with awareness. You no longer get carried away by emotional blackmail. You don't offer your heart on a silver platter to those who only know how to hurt. Healing has taught you to preserve yourself without losing your compassion. Before, loneliness was frightening. Silence felt like punishment. You clung to bad situations just to not feel alone. But something changed. Loneliness became refuge. Silence turned into an answer. You realized that being alone at times is what saves you. It's where your soul breathes, cleanses, and realigns. You stopped trying to convince others of your worth. Stopped begging for recognition. Stopped waiting for others to see how much you give. Now, you know who you are, and that is enough. Your self-esteem was built from within, not outside. You no longer seek validation from others, because you found your own center. Peace has become your thermometer. If something takes your peace, you walk away. No drama, no fight, just a conscious choice to preserve your essence. Because the healed empath no longer wants to live in emotional wars. They choose lightness, they choose balance. And that is not selfishness, it is wisdom gained through pain. You begin to realize that not everyone deserves access to your energy, and that's okay. You learn to say enough with love. You learn that you don't have to explain everything, that your intuition needs no justification. The healed empath speaks little, but with precision. They no longer defend themselves from everything. They don't respond to everyone. They simply live in peace. This transformation is not loud, but it is deep. And those who knew you before can feel it. They feel that you've changed, that now there is firmness where there once was doubt. There is clarity where there once was confusion. You still feel deeply, but you no longer carry the world on your shoulders. Now you feel, you understand, and you choose. Because your healing is your personal revolution. When a chosen one heals, they become a presence. You no longer need to prove who you are. Your mere presence already transmits what many try to explain with words. Before, you were the one who absorbed everything. Now, you've become someone who transforms just by being there. Healing brought you back to your essence, and it carries a weight no one can ignore. When you walk into a space, something shifts. Conversations soften, masks fall, and what was hidden begins to reveal itself. This isn't magic, it's frequency. It's your clean energy clashing with everything still out of alignment. And because of that, sometimes you disturb without doing a thing. Those who still live in lies will feel uncomfortable around you. Those who don't want to look within will avoid your gaze, and that's okay. The healed empath doesn't confront. They simply radiate truth. And this light doesn't fight. It simply illuminates. And where there is light, shadows can no longer hide. Your peace has become a boundary. Your calm, a shield. And the most beautiful part is that this strength doesn't come from pride. It comes from how many times you fell and got back up. From the nights you cried in silence, from the moments you were betrayed, silenced, forgotten. You rebuilt yourself there, and now you walk with purpose. The healed empath is one who learned not to lose themselves trying to save everyone else. They still love, still feel, still care. But now they understand they cannot heal anyone, while they themselves are hurting. They know that true love also says no when necessary. You've stopped carrying everything on your back. You understand that your mission is not to bear the weight of others, but to be light, so that each one can find their own path. You've stopped blaming yourself for not being able to save those who refuse to change. Because now, your strength no longer lies in effort. It lies in wisdom. People can feel that you've changed, not because you've become distant, but because now you respect yourself. And that teaches more than any speech. Your energy now has edges, it has structure, it has clarity. And because of that, you have become a transforming presence, silent, but impossible to ignore. The identity of the healed empath is sacred after healing. You understand that your heart is not a public space. It is sacred. And because it is sacred, not everyone can enter. Before, all someone had to do was ask, and you would open the doors. Now, you've learned to discern who truly comes with pure intentions, and who only wants to take advantage of your light. You didn't become bitter. You became conscious. Before, you believed that loving meant giving without limits. Today, you understand that love is also boundaries. It's also care. It's also knowing when to walk away. You don't cut ties out of anger, but out of protection, because you know your energy needs to be whole to fulfill what you came to do. The healed empath chooses carefully with whom to share their presence, not out of arrogance, but out of respect for their mission. You discovered that it's not selfish to keep your distance from those who don't do you good. That taking care of yourself is just as important as caring for others, and that giving your all isn't proof of love, it's self-abandonment. Those who were used to your unconditional yes are shocked by your firm no. Those who manipulated with guilt now feel lost. You stopped accepting crumbs, stopped settling for less, and that changes everything. Now to walk with you, truth is required. The healed empath understands that presence is a gift, that time is a seed, that attention is energy, and that's why you no longer waste what is most precious. Your boundaries aren't walls. They are portals that open only with the key of truth, respect, and reciprocity. Your identity has been restored. Before, you saw yourself as someone small, insecure, too emotional. Now you recognize you were always strong, always light. You were just surrounded by the wrong voices. And today, the voice that guides you comes from within, clear, firm, and aligned with your essence. You've become someone who no longer needs to justify themselves. Your peace is your answer. Your silence is your stance. You don't argue with those who don't want to understand. You don't explain to those who don't want to listen. You live in truth, and whoever wants to walk beside you will have to come in the same frequency. The identity of the healed empath is sacred, because it was shaped in pain, refined in solitude, and confirmed by the presence of God in every detail. Those who look from the outside may not understand, but those who feel it, recognize it. You have been healed. And now you are a guide, a presence, a safe harbor for those also seeking awakening. You didn't change. You returned to who you always were. Some people say you've changed, that you've become colder, more distant. But what they don't understand is that you didn't turn into someone else. You simply returned to your essence, the person you were before being shaped by trauma, fears, pressure, and expectations that were never yours. You lost yourself trying to fit into spaces that diminished you, tried to adapt so you wouldn't be rejected, stayed silent to keep the peace, smiled to avoid conflict. But inside, something hurt, because you knew that version wasn't real. It was survival. It was a mask. It was your soul screaming to come back home. Healing didn't harden you. It aligned you. It made you stop bargaining your peace to maintain shallow connections. It made you understand that you don't have to break yourself to keep anyone whole. And that real love doesn't demand constant sacrifice. It demands truth, respect, and fair exchange. Today, you no longer lower your head to please others. You don't hide your pain to appear strong. You don't fake smiles to keep up appearances. You've learned that being true to yourself is the only way to live in peace. And that pushed many away, but brought the right ones closer. Your connections have changed. Depth became a requirement. Alignment became essential. You no longer tolerate empty relationships, forced conversations, or bonds that require your self-erasure as an entry ticket. Now, to walk beside you, one must have essence. And that scares those who only know how to live on the surface. You're no longer available for what fragments you. And that is healing. Healing is not living without pain. It's choosing what no longer hurts. It's discernment. It's knowing when to leave. It's stopping the effort where there is no longer fertile ground. And you finally learned all of this. You didn't become insensitive. You simply learned to protect what is precious within you. Your light is no longer accessible to just anyone. Your soul is no longer open ground for any kind of energy. You've learned to close cycles, to bless from afar, to move on without looking back. And that brought you peace. The kind of peace many don't understand, because they were expecting the old you, the one who always gave in, always accepted, always put themselves last. But that version no longer exists. Now there is only you, true, whole, awakened. You return to who you always were, and that is a miracle. Because in the midst of so much pain, so much pressure, and so many attempts to dim your light, you still found your way back. And now, no one can dim you again. Your soul remembers who it is, and no one can take that away. The voice of the healed empath carries weight. Before healing, you used to over-explain yourself, tried to convince, apologized for feeling, for speaking, for existing. Your voice trembled. Your words came with fear. You believed you needed to soften everything just to be accepted. But today everything has changed. Your voice has grounded itself, not in volume, but in truth. Now you speak less but say more. Your presence already sets the tone in the room. Your words land exactly where they need to. There's no need to shout, no need to persuade. You simply speak, and those with spiritual ears will hear. Because your voice now carries an authority that doesn't come from ego, but from your story. It's the authority of someone who has lived and survived, who has fallen, bled, and rebuilt, who has learned in practice what books cannot teach. And because of that, when you express yourself, there is wisdom, there is firmness, there is clarity. And that unsettles those who once fed off your old insecurity. You don't speak to please. You speak to be faithful to yourself. Your truth is not aggressive, but it's non-negotiable. You don't use words to dominate. You use them to illuminate, and that changes everything. Because now your communication is aligned with your soul, and the soul does not lie. The vibration of your voice speaks before your mouth even opens, and that is rare. People listen to you more attentively, some with admiration, others with fear. But all sense there is something different, something deep, something that comes from a place few have access to. You've become an example, not because you're perfect, but because you're authentic. Your voice isn't about control. It's about alignment. You say what you feel, you think what you say, and you act according to what you believe. That is integrity. And today, that's rare. The voice of the healed empath carries healing. It carries direction, and it carries boundaries. Because you're no longer available for conversations that diminish you, nor for dialogues that disconnect you. Now your communication reflects your evolution, and anyone who wants to walk with you must respect that. Your energy precedes your words, and your spirit, now healed, is your greatest language. You're no longer here to please. You're here to live your truth, with firmness, with gentleness, with purpose. And that is what makes your voice so powerful. The chosen one is not a product of chance, but of a lineage. You didn't get here by luck or coincidence. Everything you went through had a reason. Every tear, every silence, every unexplained pain was part of a greater preparation. Your soul was forged in the invisible, molded in fire, chosen before you were even born. You carry a spiritual lineage of light and resilience. The chosen always face more. From an early age, you dealt with rejections, losses, and battles no one saw. And even without understanding, you kept going. You fell and got back up. You believed when everyone else doubted. Not because you were stronger, but because something greater sustained you. It was the calling, even muffled, whispering inside your chest. You cannot stop. You weren't the problem in the family. You were its silent healing. You weren't the weird one at school. You were the awakened among the asleep. You weren't the one who loved too much. You were the one sent to teach about love. You just didn't know it yet. But now you do. And knowing changes everything. That sensitivity, many called weakness, is your most precious gift. It allows you to perceive the invisible. Feel the atmosphere, read intentions, sense danger, guide with your heart. It's not magic, it's connection, being attuned to something that comes from above. And you are. The chosen one doesn't need to prove anything. Your energy speaks, your presence impacts, your intuition guides. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You just need to be faithful to what you feel. Because heaven speaks to those who listen. And now, you listen. Not with your ears, but with your awakened soul. You've become a spiritual presence on earth, a lighthouse in the midst of chaos, a bridge between dimensions. And even if that seems too big, don't run. This is why you came. You are a consciousness activator, a pattern breaker, a messenger. And you're more prepared than you think. For a long time, you believed there was something wrong with the way you felt, perceived, and cared. They called you exaggerated, dramatic, fragile. But today, you're beginning to understand. Your soul has always been in a process of returning. It's not change. It's remembrance. It's a reconnection with an ancient truth that is now finally blooming. Being a healed empath doesn't mean being cold. It means being whole. It's not about cutting everyone off. It's about knowing clearly who is meant to stay. It's not about isolating yourself. It's about learning to preserve your light. Healing doesn't take away your sensitivity. It protects your essence. It teaches you not to lose yourself in the pain of others, and still to keep loving. The healed empath is like a well-lit fire. It illuminates, warms, transforms. But it doesn't burn out for those who don't know how to approach with respect. You still feel deeply, but now you feel with awareness. You still love intensely, but now you love by choice. And that changes everything, because now you no longer need to hide. Your entire journey made sense. Every disappointment, every separation, every pain that seemed unfair. Nothing was in vain. It was heaven preparing you, layer by layer, to recognize who you've always been. because the chosen one isn't the perfect one. It's the one who went through pain and still believed in the light. You now understand the weight of your presence. It unsettles those who live by appearances. It comforts those who seek truth. You don't need to speak loudly. Your vibration arrives before your voice. Your story gave you authority. Your healing gave you discernment. And your sensitivity, which once hurt you, has now become a spiritual radar. That's why some people walk away. That's why certain cycles end without warning. Because your frequency has changed, and those unwilling to grow with you will no longer be able to reach you. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. And you have the right to move forward in peace, even if some don't understand. Being chosen is a calling, not a title. It's a path of awareness, truth, surrender, and purpose. And if you've made it this far, something inside you has already awakened. You feel it. Something has changed. Something has been remembered. Because your soul recognizes the truth, even when the world insists on hiding it. If you've realized that all of this resonates within you, it's because you are ready. Ready to walk with more clarity, more firmness, more love for yourself. What lies ahead is construction. It's liberation. It's expansion. And you will no longer be trying to survive. You will be living with purpose. My name is George, and if this message touched your heart, I ask that you follow the channel. Here, you will always find a space of truth, healing, and spirituality. And if you've made it to the end, leave a comment. I recognize who I am. I want to know who felt this word. You are light, and the world will still see it.